Hello there, world. This is Bettina Carey, and I'm the founder and CEO of We Empower You, the global community, and WeEmpowerYourLife.com, the website. And I'm so excited to be welcoming folks from all over the globe here, both live and on YouTube. And I'm here today to introduce a longtime friend and someone who has something fantastic to offer us here today, Miss Nancy Juetten. And her topic is going to be podcast guesting mistakes and what to do instead. And in 2022, getting booked on more podcasts is the name of the game, right? We're all doing this virtual thing, and the in-person meetings are pretty much out for the moment. If podcast guesting is a high priority for you or us messengers, please join us here today. Go to WeEmpowerYourLife.com, click on the calendar tab, and join us live on this YouTube video, or the Zoom meeting rather. And so let me share a little bit about my relationship with Nancy, because we met many moons ago. We won't even talk about the years, because then that would just date us. We don't want that. And I've had the benefit of her amazing expertise and mentoring. And I find her to be one of the most extraordinary individuals that I personally know from the inside out. Her heart is as big as it gets. And I cannot recommend working with Nancy any more than just that. Born with a pen and paper in hand, she, as I like to say, Nancy eats, drinks, and sleeps turns of phrases like nobody's business. And bar none, her upcoming podcast, Visibility Live Lab, is going to be one of the very best of all of the deliveries that I've watched her perform in. So let's go ahead and welcome Nancy Juetten to the stage, and she's going to take it away. And her topic is, again, podcast guesting mistakes and what to do instead. Thank you so much for joining us here, Nancy.
Well, thank you, Bettina. And it's just an honor to be invited back to the We Empower You stage. Thank you so much. Before I start, I should ask the question, who here on this call wants a larger audience to benefit from the message that they have to share? If yes is your answer, post it in the chat and say yes, yes, yes. If you need a wider audience of people, the right people to benefit from what it is that you have to talk about and the message you have to bring to the marketplace, so you can lasso more of the right people to want to do business with you, podcast guesting is one of the most empowering ways to deliver your message without leaving your house, without having to pay an expensive booking agency, and without letting tech or overwhelm take you out. Could I get an amen to that? As Bettina may have mentioned, or I'll just mention that in the last year, I personally, between my own YouTube show, podcast guesting, and guesting on the stages like this of other folks, I had over 100 engagements where I was speaking up virtually from my home office and getting to touch and transform lots and lots of lives. It's very empowering and intoxicating to be able to do that, especially since, as Bettina mentioned, COVID is going to prevent people from meeting face-to-face indefinitely until such time as this COVID thing gets under control. So if you have a need to drive leads to your business, podcast guesting is one of the best ways that you can do it. Let's talk about some podcast guesting mistakes. What is the number one biggest podcast guesting mistake people make? It is treating the podcast guesting opportunity as if it was a sales call. Don't let this be your fate. A podcast is a conversation between a host and a guest that is bigger than your desire to sell a book, enroll people into a program, engage your consulting services, or whatever your call to action might be. Come to the conversation with the idea that you're going to talk about something timely, newsworthy, relevant, provocative, compelling, and bring your best self to that conversation. And when listeners are compelled by what you have to say and how you say it and how you interact with the host, when the host says to the audience, tell me, what can our audience do to take a step closer in your direction? That's when you can say, I'd like you to visit my website, or I'd like you to book a call, or I'd like you to do something. Isn't it something that the dog starts to bark at the precise moment that I decide to speak up? I apologize. Oh, that is a mistake that a podcast guest makes, forgetting to put their dog in the car so that they won't be interrupted. And I apologize that I didn't do that, because he was asleep less than 5 minutes ago, and now he's currently awake. Moving on. What is another big mistake that people make? It's speaking up on shows that are a total mismatch for what it is that you have to talk about. Have you ever been in that situation where maybe you're at the train station and the other person's at the airport and you just can't seem to make the right connection? You don't want to, let's say if I'm a weight loss coach, I don't want to be on a business show talking about how I raised my revenue when my listeners were really interested in how they could release their muffin top in time for their high school reunion. The message and the audience must match. Otherwise, you waste your time. I heard a gentleman say, you can't sell a Rolex watch to a migrant farm worker. And I love that turn of phrase because it's so visceral and compelling. A Rolex watch is a luxury timepiece that requires a significant amount of discretionary income in order to wear, purchase, and enjoy. But a migrant farm worker is likely earning minimum wage and works with their hands all day. And the last thing that they're going to do is wear a Rolex watch. So make sure your audience and your message are a match. Otherwise, you could waste your time. Another big mistake people make with regard to podcast guesting is not being clear what their objective is before they start. Which brings me to ask you a question. I mean, there's all kinds of reasons to be a guest on a podcast. One of them could be that you have a personal story that's very compelling that you want more people to know about. Another is that you want to touch and transform and inspire more lives in some particular way. Another could be that you want to attract inbound client inquiries who are warm and ready to work with you to solve the problem that they have. Another could be that you want to build your list of potential people that could one day become your clients. And another reason is that you want your own halo of credibility to shine even brighter because you are hanging out with someone with incredible influence, and somehow you get to borrow their influence and put the crown on your head. And I think another reason people like to podcast guests is they want to make more money. Of all these reasons that I've talked about, which is the reason that you would want to speak up on a podcast? If you feel called to post your comment in the chat, that would be useful as we all get to know each other and see why you want to do it. As you can well imagine, I've probably talked to a lot of people who have answered this question, and you know the one that gets the most votes, can you guess? It's all of the above. I want it all. So if you want it all, you have to show up as if that is the outcome that you're going to welcome. And you also have to be very crystal clear about what the next step you want clients to take or potential clients to take when you get the opportunity to share your call to action. So the question you want to write down is, what is my call to action? Because when the host says, tell me, Bettina, where can our listeners or viewers go to learn more about you? What would you say? And if you'd like to answer, I'd more than happily welcome that response.
Absolutely. So I say, go to weempoweryourlife.com, click on the calendar tab and join our Wednesday meeting.
And if that's very good. And if you put some sizzle in the steak for people who are not yet familiar with what We Empower You is, it's this robust global community of messengers who are seriously building meaningful businesses that are about making a bigger impact in the world. And if you want to be part of that kind of a community, run and don't walk to this link. Sometimes we get so stuck in what's my call to action that we forget to put sizzle in the steak. Got to put some sizzle in the steak.
I love it.
So here's another mistake people make on podcasts. Are you ready for this one? It's treating it like a monologue instead of a dialogue. A podcast guest opportunity is a conversation between two people. I'll never forget the time that a host invited someone I know onto their show and asked the person, well, tell me your backstory. And bear in mind, this is a 30-minute podcast. The guest started talking and talked without a pause for 27 minutes. It was a video interview, and I could watch the host trying to insert herself into the conversation, but the guest was holding the space for herself exclusively for 27 minutes without a break. The comical part of watching this was watching the host squirm and try to regain control over the situation, which was proving to be an impossible task. So at minute 27, the host said, well, this has been great. Thanks so much for being on the show. What next can our listeners do to take a step in your direction? And the show was quickly truncated. Monologue, no. Dialogue, yes. I hope you'll remember that story and remember to insert proper pauses between your points so your host can say, hey, wait a minute, I have a follow-up question. Or, hey, what do you think about this? Another mistake with podcast guesting. Have you ever heard of the expression, I'm going to spray and pray my message and go to the church of hope, believing that it's going to work out and that the media is going to come rushing to my door? Spray and pray in the church of hope. Spray and pray never works. If you want to be seen, heard, and celebrated on a media outlet or a Facebook Live or a summit or any kind of conversation that's bigger than you are, do yourself and the host the honor of paying attention to the show first before you insert yourself in it, so you can actually reach out to the host and make a thoughtful approach about why you would have value to bring to that conversation, what makes you special, different, and preferred as someone that would be remarkable on the show, and why now is the time for them to be talking to you. And since we're talking about how to make an approach, another podcast guesting mistake is to over rely on templates that fall flat when they are received by the person you've sent them to. Consider for yourself when you are on this receiving end of an over-templated message. Dear host, great show. I'd love to be a guest. Here's my media one sheet. Can't wait to talk to you. Dear host, how are you feeling? Chances are you're feeling like you are on the receiving end of somebody's spray and pray effort where they got the template, didn't think enough of the host to go deeper. And you know what happens? This is what happens. This is the most powerful member of the decision-making body, and it goes and it hits the delete key, and that templated message is lost in space. And you, the person who sent it, are sitting there wondering, why didn't they call me back? Well, why didn't they call you back? Because you didn't give them anything to hold on to that was meaningful enough that they would want to have a chat with you. If you have a template, do yourself and the universe and the host the favor and the kindness and the honor of saying something specific. Like, for example, Dear Mary, I listened to the Smart Women Rule podcast today and listened to episode number 163 featuring guest Mary Smith, who was talking about empowerment around money. And the biggest takeaway that I took from that interview was this, something that she said. And that so resonated with me. And that's why I wanted to get in touch with you, because I am a financial advisor and I have a very specific and alternative point of view about that I think would be interesting to talk to in follow-up to that episode or something like that. But can you see how that's so much different than dear host, great show, can't wait to be your guest? Don't be that person. Be the person who cares enough about the halo of influence that host is wearing, that you will do your part to demonstrate that you've watched or listened to the show. I think another big mistake with podcast guesting is trying it once and abandoning it because you say that it doesn't work. There are so many different marketing mechanisms that we have in the tool shed today that we can dabble with a lot of them. We can dabble with Facebook ads. We can dabble creating our funnel. We can dabble and spend way too much time making our websites brilliant. We can do any variety of things. But if you do something once and then you abandon it, nobody succeeds doing anything once. The key is to choose a marketing approach or strategy or tactic that feels aligned for you, and to double down on that with singular focus so that you can singularly focus on being brilliant in that role and driving people to do that singular focus thing that you are best at, in exchange for which you are rewarded meaningfully with revenue, compensation, whatever the case may be. And so for myself, last year, I said, I'm double downing on podcast guesting because I know how to talk. I like to talk more than I like to type. Do you like to talk more than you like to type? I do. I can bend and sway with a conversation. I can be charming. I can drop a sound bite if I want to. I can ask a question. I can say, hey, that was interesting. What do you think about that? This is really fun for me. It feels intuitive and aligned and good. And if that feels intuitive and aligned and good for you, you're sitting on a gold mine, because there are millions of podcasts out there. Not all of them are right for you, but when you find the ones that are right for you and you make a winning approach and you get seen, heard, and celebrated on one of these shows, you know what happens? Other hosts are watching or listening. And then you start getting phone calls and inquiries from other hosts asking you to be on their program because they so enjoyed hearing you talk about whatever you spoke about on the program that they happen to stumble upon and find you. So one good thing always leads to another. And if you do the things, the opposite of the things that I've been talking about here today, you're going to be in really, really good shape to make the most of this medium to your advantage, to accomplish all of the goals that you have for yourself. I think if I had one more parting salvo about any of this, is that if you could believe and behave as if the most important influencer was going to call you tomorrow, and you were ready to say yes, to be the player to be named later, to take your place on deck right now, how would everything in your business change because you were ready for that opportunity and you glided through the door to opportunity to show up like a star, rock that moment, and build that audience that you've been hungering for as long as you've been dreaming about creating success in your business. So those are some of the biggest podcast guesting mistakes, and I'm more than happy to answer any questions or handle any follow-up that you might wish to take with me.
Thank you so much, Nancy. Of course, this is just a sneak peek into your podcast visibility lab that you're going to be hosting starting on Monday, January 24. And tell us a little bit about what else are folks going to benefit from this upcoming 5-day challenge that you have scheduled.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Well, this is the best thing that I do, I got to say. I am going to guide you through my 6P system. You are going to prepare your mindset, your office, and your message so that you are ready for opportunity. I'm going to show you how to position yourself to be the guest that a host can't wait to book. I'm going to teach you how to prioritize and quickly identify the right shows that would be right for your message so that you can get yourself booked perhaps within the week. I'm going to teach you how to pitch in a way that you will not be resisted. I'm going to teach you how to ping pong people back into your world so you can invite those new client inquiries, the leads, the conversations, the clients, the cash. And of course, why does that matter? So you can profit. And I'm going to underscore all of that with the importance of practice and presence, because if you have not enough practice and you don't bring your full presence to every call, you miss a huge opportunity to connect. So each day there will be a 1-hour training and there'll be a bite-sized homework, and each day builds on the one that came before. And by the end of the challenge, if you take inspired action on what it is that I'm guiding you to do, you will be the podcast dream guest the top host can't wait to book. And if you feel inspired to make this a regular habit, of course, there will be an invitation for you to decide to come behind the velvet rope and allow my velvet boot of accountability to keep you in action so that you are seen, heard, and celebrated on podcasts every week for the lifetime of your successful business, to welcome all the rewards that come from that.
Woo, and guess who signed up already?
I know you're going to be there.
I went ahead and went another step further and signed up for the other program that's going to follow. And I'm so excited to be working with Nancy because, as I said, I've been working with Nancy for a number of moons, and it literally ends up going into the money, all of the places, all of the things, all of the readiness that has come from the positioning, the getting my call to action right, the getting the one sheet. Now, when I actually get an invitation, I can literally within seconds answer every single question that a would-be podcast host would be asking, and it's all laid out. And of course, I was working with Nancy last year on this. We're going to go ahead and open it up. I'm going to put the gallery mode up, and we'll go ahead and take some questions. We've got folks here that not only want to be on shows, but I know we have at least one person who has their own show besides me, and perhaps even Master Nigel Henry has his own show at this point as well. So go ahead and unmute one at a time, and just raise your hand and say that you're going so that we know who's going. Master Nigel Henry.
Oh, I was going to ask, what are the dates and logistics?
The dates.
Oh, January 24th through the 28th at 11 o'clock Pacific. And then there's going to be a weekend bonanza for replays for those people who aren't able to join us for time zone reasons or whatnot. But you can have the whole weekend to catch up on the replays. And then the following Monday, I'm going to do a special bonus session where I'm going to actually do media one sheet and bio makeovers in a closed Zoom room. And then on the 30th, and then on the 1st, I have a closed door Q&A session for people who have questions outstanding that still need to be addressed. So the whole thing completes on February 1st, and there's value at every turn.
And how
For those of you who want to sign up who are watching, you go to getpaid.com/Bettina. That's Bettina. I put it in the chat here for those that are attending the meeting live. And Nancy, you've done a beautiful job at presenting just these short mistakes that folks don't need to be making. And obviously you've got a lot of content that you're going to be covering. Can you dive into explore any more details?
Well, what I will tell you is that what's very rewarding for me personally is that when people follow the yellow brick road and do exactly as I describe, as I break it down into a way that's super clear for you, the person who starts the challenge is not the person who finishes. There was a gentleman named Brent Scarpo who attended my last session. Maybe you've met him. He was a casting director for the movie The Shawshank Redemption. he's a coach who works with young people now. He's no longer in the movie industry, but he took the Podcast Visibility Live Lab Challenge, and within the same week, he booked himself on 9 shows. He got 2 new clients and got a multiple gig virtual speaking engagement with some meeting planner company that fell in love with him that fast. I mean, he was like an amazing success story. And this is all from the free challenge. And if you'll remember the movie, The Shawshank Redemption, the line in it from is like, get busy living or get busy dying.
Yep.
He works with young people who need to get their act together so that they can get out of their funk and start making life happen. I mean, we found a way to use his message to make him money. And it all happened during the free challenge. And so when you sign up for the Podcast Visibility Live Lab using the link that Bettina has provided, when you get to the thank you page, you can watch a video of Brent talking about what happened for him. When I can touch and transform more lives by empowering them in this way, my own legacy is alive today for the lives that I'm empowering to never be hungry for an audience ever again. I love that. And when people learn how to avoid the mistakes and do the things I'm talking about, you know what happens? It's bigger than me and getting to train people for tuition. It's bigger than that. It means that the quality of the conversations that are being had on the air are greater, that the bar is raised, that whenever we as listeners tune into podcasts, we're going to be better off because guests are going to know how to show up and shine and serve in a brilliant way. This is so much bigger than how I make my living. It's how I empower other people to have fully expressed lives that are rewarding for them. So this is my legacy work. I love doing it. And I hope that you'll not only join me, but have your marketing assistant come with you so the 2 of you can learn how to divide and conquer. So have your assistant register, have yourself register. And if you know 2 or 3 other messengers who need this kind of training, share Bettina's link with your friends so that they can be part of it also. It's easy to participate. I'm kind of reminded of that movie, The Blind Side, with Sandra Bullock. She says to her son, Michael, when he's shopping for a shirt, she says, Michael, if you don't like the shirt in the store, you sure as heck won't like it when you bring it home. So you see how I'm showing up here? I show up like this. I'm genuine. I turn a phrase pretty well. I have value to add. If you are liking the way I'm showing up, that's how I'm going to show up during the call. That's how I'm going to show up if you ever become a client. But if I'm not your glass of tea, save your breath, because I'm not going to be any different next week than I am right now.
I just saw that movie on the airplane ride back on Saturday. In fact, I'd seen it before, and it's such a great movie. So I have up on the screen how you sign up, of course, and you're going to save your place because this is a complimentary 5-day challenge starting January 24th at 11 a.m. Pacific every single day, Monday through Friday, along with some other things that Nancy has planned. And so I'm really excited. Just go ahead and complete the form. Take your seat now. I personally believe, and this is my...
Bettina, if you scroll down just a little bit further on that page. Hey, Maria, I know your name. We've crossed paths before. It's nice to see you. Scroll down a little bit further. There's a little graphic near the bottom. Okay. Keep going. Oh, I thought there was. I guess there isn't. When you get to the other page, there's an actual...
Thank you.
There's a graphic that will show you day by day.
Nice.
What we're talking about, when we're talking about it, and you have a whole schedule that you can use. And there's Brent right there. That's him talking about how awesome it was. So I hope you'll watch. It's very inspiring.
And one of the things that I want to mention is that this is a complimentary 5-day challenge. And if you're not able to attend, sign up anyway. You can watch the videos. At the end of the day, I personally believe that each and every We Empower You member and We Empower You guest would benefit greatly. And I certainly have not only from this particular program, because Nancy's been offering programs for 20 years. I have benefited from every last one of them. And I can tell you that I have made a lot of revenue come into my doors as a result of taking her advice, following her footsteps. Love Nancy to pieces. It's been years of being a colleague and friend, and so glad to have you here. So let's go ahead and take more questions. It looks like Barbara's opened up her mic.
Yes. Hi, Nancy.
Hi, Barbara.
I've been, hi, Nigel. Hi, Aggie and Angel of Freedom. And hi, Rosie. So I'm excited to sign up. But Tina, sings your praises. And I'm pivoting my business, and I'm going to need to do some podcasts because I have so much information, skills that you only learn from doing. You know what I'm saying? So I've got over 10,000 hours. So I'm an expert, and I would love to put it on the podcast.
Well,
I love that for you, Barbara.
That's so awesome. And that brings me up to something I want to say is that there's podcasting, the big umbrella of podcasting, and then there's podcast guesting. So I want to just touch on one thing. If your objective is to monetize as quickly as possible and pave the fastest path to the cash, your fastest path to the cash is to tap into already existing podcasts that have existing audiences where you can influence people who are already there. When you start your own podcast or your own YouTube show or whatever, you're starting from ground zero. And it's a very slow and long build to develop a sufficient audience that you have enough influence to move your own needle. So if generating revenue and leads is higher priority for you, guest a lot on other people's shows first to determine that you love it, that you're good at it, that you're effective. And once you prove that to yourself, keep doing it. And then ask yourself, wouldn't it be cool if I had a show of my own? Because then as you continue to podcast guests, your call to action could be to bring people back to your show.
Yes.
Or you swap guest spots with your fellow hosts.
Hang on one second, Nancy. I'm going to unmute you again here. We just had a little background noise going on there. Unmute.
So Barbara, does that make sense? The difference between guesting versus creating your own show? Is that an aha for you? Can't hear you yet.
You're muted.
I said I would love to be a guest on a podcast.
Oh, good. Okay. I just wanted to draw the distinction between starting your own show versus being a guest on someone else's. Yes. I think it's good to be a guest first and guest as often as you can. What do you do, Barbara?
I do a lot of things, but mainly I plan meetings and conferences. And so I work with executive directors to plan and locate the venue to have their national conferences. And I negotiate the deal with the hotel. I'm actually a hotel extraordinaire.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah, I love hotels. I just love everything about hotels. I love the lobby. I love the cute bellman. I love, the chandeliers. I just love the fine dining, and I love the 800 thread count European sheets. So I love everything.
So just to demonstrate an idea in life action here, if you love what you do, your enthusiasm comes through loud and clear. A timely topic that you could talk about on podcasts is, what are meeting planners doing to make conferences safe and inviting in a post-pandemic arena? You could speak on the best practices that hotels are putting into place to bring meetings back to life so we can be eye to eye and nose to nose with people once again as soon as possible. Right. That elevates the conversation beyond hire me for your meeting planning, but what are the best meeting planners doing to ensure that it's a safe place?
Right.
And it's changing every day.
Yes.
And if it's a 5-star situation, what are the 5-star ways that top hotels around the world are raising the bar to create safety and all of that. I mean, it'd be very interesting to hear that. A lot of people would be
Yes.
interested.
I love it. I love it. And I could totally see Barbara doing this. Sally is actually on the mic here, and she's not got her visual up, but Sally Page has had her own podcast show in the past as well. Do you have any thing to add or a question, Sally? Oh, mic is off again. Hang on a second. Might have missed my window.
Well, I recognize Sally's name because I think she's a member of my Facebook group. So Sally, good to see you. And as I look at the clock
last time around,
I need to say that I have another interview I have to go to at 4 o'clock. So is there anyone that has a question that they want to ask before I have to ring off for that next engagement? I'm more than happy to help if there's somebody that has a question.
Nigel?
I think my question is building on the one you just gave, the answer regarding Barbara, but it's more like, let's just say I have an esoteric topic that I specialize in, and then I'm like, how do I map that to a particular podcast as a whole? You know what I'm saying? How do I message to market fit in the podcast?
Well, without knowing the specifics, I know
Yeah.
there's something to do with mindset, and there's something to do with, I mean, I know a little bit about you to be only slightly dangerous, but you might put things into buckets. Like, do you want to talk about communication skills? Do you want to talk about persuasion? Do you want to talk about mindset? Do you want to talk about entrepreneurship? What keywords, if you will, does your expertise fit into, so that you could start to frame a topic, not about how people could buy it or enjoy it or whatever, but a bigger conversation around, like, we're all messengers here trying to boost our authority, boost our visibility. So any kind of show about boosting authority or building credibility could be a big umbrella under which many of us might actually find a place. So I guess that would be the way I could answer that question, given what I know about you so far, Master Nigel. But it isn't about talking about your modality. It could be, how did you come to this discovery? What have you learned as a result of it? How is it changing and transforming lives when other methods have failed? Those are some idea starters for you.
Yeah, and I think that was beautiful, because what I think I heard was break out your topic into conversation blocks, right? Just different, like, mindset, whatever, right? But then I was thinking about, how do you find which podcast to map it to? Like,
well, I'm going to give you a little ninja tip.
yeah,
Just one. There's a site called matchmaker.fm.
okay.
Matchmaker.fm, and you will go to that site and you will set up a profile for yourself after first looking at other profiles to get an example against which you can mirror your own. But if you go there and you say, oh my gosh, I'm going to go look for, I'm just going to pull out building authority, or entrepreneurship, find people in the entrepreneurship bucket and just scan a few of their profiles to see how they're sharing their message. You're a good enough communicator to know whether or not you're responsive to what you see. But whenever I go to matchmaker.fm and I reply to something, the next day I've got a booking. I mean, it can be that easy. There are all kinds of podcast guest matchmaking sites you can visit. I'm so honored that I got to be here today. And because I have this other thing I have to get to, I have to ring off. But are you coming to the podcast?
Yes, thank you. Several people.
Invite your friends, invite your assistant to come with you, because the divide and conquer is going to allow you to accelerate so much faster. She should register, you should register, and to collectively, you should invite 3 more people. GetKnownGetPaid.com/Bettina. Make it go around the world. Let's bring a huge audience. And I'll say one other thing. I'm going to be streaming live into my Facebook group, and I'm also going to be delivering this by Zoom. So when you register, choose your pleasure, but just make an appointment and be there live every day. You will get so much value. I know you will be well served.
Thank you so very much, Nancy. It's been wonderful to have you. As always, I look forward to seeing you on January 24th, if not before.
Thank you so much. Bye, everybody.
Bye for now. Thank you. All right. So that was a great presentation. And next up, I have Master Nigel Henry, who's going to just share a little bit about his financial miracle challenge. There's three of the folks that are in the financial miracle challenge that's occurring this week. It's 5 days, and we're on day 3. And Barbara Ozeda and Angel of Freedom, Troy Thompson, and myself, I'm the Angel of Connection. We're all participating. Share a little bit about how it's going, Master Nigel. Unmute.
Okay. Oops. Can you see me? Can you hear me? Can you? Uh-oh.
Yep. Yeah, I think we just lost your background for some reason.
Try it again. I've lost my background. What's going on?
That can happen sometimes.
Choose virtual background.
You can try maybe replacing it if you go into the virtual space there.
Let's deal with that. None.
Zoom is so crazy that way. I had that happen when I was actually on StreamYard last month doing a TV show. And it was like, oh, my background is showing. Didn't mean for that to happen.
Try it again. Okay, I think it's back.
Okay, there you go.
I'm back. All right. Greetings, my peoples, as I like to say. The Financial Miracle Challenge is really part of a bigger picture. And since my intuition told me that Bettina was going to put me on again, I said I better show them the bigger picture from which the Financial Miracle Challenge is being delivered. So I'm going to share this picture. Some people have seen it before. Let me just
let me give you permissions just a second here. I'm so powerful.
Yes.
Oz.
There you go. And your volume is a little low too. Still.
Okay.
Yeah, much better.
Right there.
Yeah.
Okay. So share screen. There we go. I think this is. Can you guys see that? I think I've shown this so many times. So this is the framework that I'm speaking to. And I think Nancy touched on it. And it starts here. What is the legacy, change, or impact that I, as a messenger, would like to create in the world? And whatever that message, legacy, is, it involves adding value to people's lives. Value, literally, whatever it is, whether I speak or sell a product or give a service, what the people are experiencing is value, and value makes them grow, and value causes them to expand, right? Now, a lot of people have a business that amplifies the value that they're putting into the world. So Apple is putting out value into the world through the products like the iPod, iPhone, the Mac. And we know that people are receiving value because they're smiling, they're happy. They have the smiley face on their face. And the business is leverage, is like a machine that amplifies the value they put in. But before they can create a business, the person, can everyone see that word person there?
Yes.
Yes. The person is the conduit for the value that's going into the business, getting scaled up and maxed out. So in the example of Apple, I'm just going to say Steve Jobs had an idea in his mind for creating value. And then he spoke it. If you guys remember, he was on a stage walking up and down in his jeans and turtleneck, and he was talking. And people heard value in his message. And they were so, like, whatever he was saying sounded so excited that they wrapped around the building, and around every Apple store, there was lines, and money started coming in to the store, which came to him or the owners in the form of personal income. So human beings fundamentally are value producing entities, value. And the good news is when value goes out, money comes in. And then we found out that the number one channel on a human being that sprays out value is the voice. And this is why I feel a lot of kinship with Nancy's work, because a podcast is the voice. A guest on a podcast is talking. She said 2 conversations, talking. And when people are talking, they're exchanging or sharing value. And the law of money says if value goes out of my mouth, money comes in, which is why I created this phrase called my voice is my moneymaker. So the first thing before I build a business, I would like to activate my value spraying machine called my voice. Now, where is this value coming from? It turns out at the core in people's heart, there is actually a machine called the heart or the spirit that's spraying out value into my temple, which is made of my mind, body, and emotion. And my identity, my purpose, my gifts all come through me and express as value. And the number one place where value is being distributed is my voice. So Nigel, in his wisdom, said, you know, a lot of people are focused on their business, and what I would like to focus on is activating the voice in the person. So I'm going to stop sharing now and come back to interactive mode. Hold on one second, my peoples, and ask some questions. Yes, does that make any sense that people, when they're talking, literally talking, and as long as they're making a noise out of their mouth, value is what's actually transferring? Does that make any sense? Oh, the reason why I'm asking the question is to get the people in the audience right now, Nancy, Maria, to actually say something, because it will prove the point that I'm making. If you make a noise, value will come out your mouth. So I'm just going to ask Maria, what does she think? Because she's going to start talking. Watch this.
Well, as usual, I get that how and who we are and how we express it is what makes the difference.
Yes. Now notice what she did, just made a noise and said, as usual, how and what and who we are is what makes the difference. But until she spoke, we would never have known that piece of value. You see that? So any noise that Maria makes, as far as I'm concerned, there's a $sign attached to it. Right? Now, I know Angel Aggie is a super valued machine, and I've made an agreement not to ask her to talk because she's going to give too much value. So, but if she does talk, I guarantee you will be writing a check. That's so.
Can you cash checks in Mexico?
I am.
I can find a way to cash the check. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
And that's my point. So in the Financial Miracle Challenge, the number one emphasis is to get the participant to talk, just talk. And if they have a profession or calling or some kind of focus, then what they talk about becomes even more valuable. However, this strange thing is happening on the planet, my peoples. Check this out. There's this thing called fear of public speaking. It is the number one fear on earth. It means no talking. And so when we go on a podcast or this, the majority of people turn off their mics or turn off their visual and go into silent mode and then switch from speaking to listening. And so in the Financial Miracle Challenge, we reverse that against their will. And we cause them to talk because of the law of value. Value comes out of the mouth, money comes in. Does that make any sense? Let me just ask Bettina what she's thinking. Go ahead. Share anything you like, because anything she says is going to be value coming out of her mouth. Watch this.
What I know is that when value goes out, when I'm contributing value, giving versus getting, money comes in.
That's it.
Just
That's
like that. Just like that.
Fundamental principle. Now, why is it called a Financial Miracle Challenge? There's three parts of it. First of all, the challenge part. Remember, most people don't like to talk. For some reason, it's weird. And so today, for example, we had a participant from Canada, and she was in lockdown. It was like somebody had taped up her mouth. And it was a challenge to get her to talk. It was literally a challenge. And I took 1.5 hours on one person, and eventually she broke through after crying and blah, blah, but her voice came back. And the weirdest thing that happened when her voice came, the light came. She lit up. When someone's glowing, I'm like, and there was a person who was, who had not, she saw her at the beginning, then she was missing like on the Tuesday, and then she came back. And on the first day, she said to this client, participant, she goes, "You should get some sun." Does anyone remember that? You should go, because she was just dull, right? And then after this lady activated her voice, her radiation like zzz, just glowed up. And then this guest who had missed her, she goes, "Oh, I see you got some sun." It got nothing to do with the sun. It was her activation of her voice. When the voice is flowing, the light is also flowing. And the truth sets her free. And then she smiled. That was the other thing. Smiled. It was like this, who is that? We didn't recognize her. And all that happened is her voice was liberated. And now we can start counting the dollars, right? That's the point. The financial piece is that the voice is a money producing device. So just because someone doesn't believe me, let me do a little
Barbara.
test. Yeah, Barbara. Well, Barbara's in the thing, and Barbara's on fire. But I'm not doing testimonials yet. I was just doing theory, and this is a test for the audience that's listening. But let me see who can answer this. So there's an African-American lady. I think she's the richest African-American woman in America. Does anyone know who that is?
Oprah.
Thank you. There you go. She's alive. Question. What does Oprah do for a living?
She talks.
She has a talk show. Before she had a talk show, what was she doing for a living?
On the radio.
She was a reporter. What do they do? Talk. And then she has a whole talk show, and then she stopped that. She said, "I was tired of being #1 talk show and competing myself. No one could beat me. So I'm going to retire while I'm ahead." And guess what she now has instead of a talk show?
Her own network.
She has a platform
That's true.
called OWN, where she hosts talk shows. Like, I could see Bettina being on the OWN network, or Bettina owning the OWN network. One of those.
You better whisper that into Oprah's ear.
Right. And then the other thing is her content is about the uplifting of people, the human race. Her output is quality of life. If she died now, her legacy will be the lady raised the consciousness on the planet. And I heard the same thing from Nancy. She goes, "Oh, beyond just being a guest, the quality of podcasting messages is being risen." That's her legacy. I'm like, wow, she sounds like Oprah. And guess what? Podcasting is voice again. Man, who made this thing? So then I had this vision that, all these countries where they're like, oh, there's poor people like in Africa and all that thinking. I'm like, somebody ought to tell them that there's a money maker attached to their face. And everyone has one. And if we could get people in any country to talk and recognize the value coming out their mouth, the poverty would end. So that's why we're doing the Financial Miracle Challenge. It's just the beginning. This is like the first one for the year. And we're experimenting and evolving it every session. And we're starting with the willing and the able, right? So Bettina is the most willing and the most able. She's been on like 4 of them. And she has made
half a dozen.
Yes, she's made the most money of all the attendees every time, because the more you activate your voices, the more you activate your voice and the more money you make. And then recently we've had Barbara for the first time. Barbara, would you like to give your own testimonial without my prompting?
Well, I think the first word is just surrender, because you resist what Nigel teaches you. And
who is this you? One of the rules, you don't talk about you.
I resisted.
Yeah, thank you.
I resisted. And finally, after surrendering, the bells and whistles are going off. It's life-changing.
Now, why are you in this thing, Barbara? What?
The Financial Miracle Challenge.
Don't you have anything better to do with your time? Aren't you a busy woman? What the hell? It's 5 days. That's a lot of time.
I need $10,000 in my bank account by Friday.
Did you hear that? She is driven by the money. I want the money. Now, what is Nigel saying? How are you going to get this money? Why don't you just go and get a job?
Well, I don't want a job.
Well, the reason why she's there is because I'm promising her that if she talks in 5 days or less, this little device on the front of her face can put that money in her account. And I think she told me, peoples, that she has talked at least 5 calls today, and there's some money coming later on this evening if it hasn't already hit her.
That's correct.
See?
Yes.
And this, yes, look at
Oh yeah. I forgot it's this.
You can't be attached to the outcome because it just might fall out of the sky.
Well, you can be.
Or you can be, but
the bottom line is it's a practice, okay?
Right.
It's a practice. And most people are starting from scratch, where they were in silence forever and they listened. They were trained to listen from school days. And Nigel was saying, you're going to be trained to talk. And yes, you'll be hearing, but what matters that puts the money into the bank is the voice. So fundamental principle is the voice is the money maker, the voice. And then you've got to talk. And then when I'm talking now, as long as value is coming out, the bank exchange rate has to hit. It's a law. It's not even what Nigel's formula is, just the law of money. Value goes out, money comes in. The output is the voice. So that's the Financial Miracle Challenge. The next one is in the 3rd week in February. And I'm sure Bettina and I and the rest of the participants will be promoting the February one. But the entry into anything that Nigel does, if you want to work with me any way whatsoever, you must be gifted a complimentary session. You must be willing to get a free 90 minutes complimentary. You must be willing to receive gifts. So I created a website page just for the entry gate. It's called greatnessactivation.com/comp. Can you put that up, Bettina, for me?
Yes. Greatness activation.
So everyone, before I even offer them Financial Miracle Challenge, anything, I say I must be able to gift you something first, because I have a lot to give in my voice. And then
greatness activation activated.
activation.com/comp, C-O-M-P, complimentary, C-O-M-P. Yes.
Okay.
That's it. And so that way I get to meet you, serve you. And then if we like each other and you're willing to be a giver, then we invite you into the Financial Miracle Challenge, because all the participants are there because they love sharing and giving through their voice. Do I have time for a quickie from Troy?
Yeah. Yes.
Troy.
And then we could hear from Troy as well.
Oh yeah, Troy is going to share his own voice with his own message, right? And that's what we're activating. Those who have a gift through that comes through their voice, whether it's consulting, coaching, whatever it is, as long as you use your voice to put money in the bank, this is an activating, intensive, you're going to be talking a lot. Now, after you start talking, we direct it to your business so you can scale up your conversations through systems and teams and stuff like that. That's after FMC. But yes, Troy, just as a participant, I think he's been here 3 times. And we talked about him today. His first time, he was just sitting there listening. And now he says stuff that he speaks to me. I'm like, finish my sentence. Go ahead, Troy.
Go ahead. Yeah. So my, this is the third time. This is the third time for me to do the FMC, the Financial Miracle Challenge. And so my past experience was as a registered nurse and an active duty officer. And so there's this desire within me to be right when I spoke. And so then I would, be asked a question and I would have this desire to give the right answer as opposed to just talking and working through. So I would sit there and I would work through in my mind, attempting to understand and process. And that's the way I had done it for however many years it worked for me. And so it reminds me of the gift of frustration is to remind me that, I keep doing that method. And if I desire a different result, then I need to let that method go and choose a different method. And so anyway, through the FMC process, I'm getting, I am better. I am talking more, and I can totally relate to the participant that Nigel was referring to. That was me in August, I believe that was. Oh, there's more. Oh, did Bettina have something?
I have had miracle after miracle over the last 6 or possibly 7 of these financial miracle challenges that I've been to. And one of the things that I am aware of is that each time my understanding, not really my understanding, my experience is that my intention matters the most of everything that is going on. If I have an intention and I am doing the steps to fulfill my intention, the ability to achieve that intention is much higher. When I lack the intention, it goes down from there. And so what's great about the Financial Miracle Challenge is that you've got the context, the box that you're in, and the pressure to really look at that intention more clearly. And so each and every time I it's like layers now. So I'm building and building and building and building this and gaining like a muscle that's getting stronger and stronger. And one of the other components that I got to experience at the last Financial Miracle Challenge was gaining the understanding of speaking from the mountaintop versus the getting to and the having to and the wanting to, and those don't get you anywhere, so to speak. It's the speaking from the mountaintop and putting myself in a position and in a place where I'm delivering my message to my intended audience, my intended avatar, in a meaningful way where the intention is clear. Again, it just ends up having financial results, and that is worth every penny of investment, but also more importantly, it's worth the time. This is a 5-day challenge with 2-3 hours a day, and each and every time I exceed my expectations of myself. So that's another thing that defies all logic. Like Barbara said, you just have to give it over to the universe because it's usually better than what you expected.
Well, and you also have to understand that that it's uncomfortable. Big money is outside your comfort zone, right? So you have to lean into that uncomfortableness, that you want to, you're frustrated and you want to just cry. You have to lean into that to get through it, right? Because inhale is where the superpower is activated.
Go to that island and get the superpower and come back.
And
go
when
Barbara, go Barbara, go Barbara.
When like things just resonate, and I was telling my grandson today, are you an angel? Yeah. Well, you know what? Inhale is where your superpowers need to be activated. And he's like, okay, Gma, okay. So it just, I get that. So surrendering, leaning into the uncomfortableness, calling those clients that you got to ask for, all of that is leading me to my greatness.
Good. That leads to my question, Barbara, if I can jump in here. I'm wondering what you do differently after the Financial Miracle Challenge than you were doing before the Financial Miracle Challenge. The challenge is something I'm curious about.
By the way,
yeah, let me just tell you, as soon as I talked to Nigel on the preliminary, like, am I going to get into this activation thing or not? I started using his methods. I hadn't even started the FMC. This was Sunday when he called me for the preliminary to see if I passed through the pearly gates to be, part of the group, because it's a certain, we're high level performing angels. And if you resist and resist and resist, Nigel, or you say, I don't know, he's going to say, well, you know what? You don't know, you're gone.
That's a really great question, Aggie, because, and one of the things I will reflect on is that as I'm attending, during the time I'm attending the Financial Miracle Challenge, there's this up leveling of my game. And then I'm able to apply it beyond the actual FMC. And then it steps me up the next time I go. So it's not like I fall down the cliff again. It's I seem to be able to hold it because there is a methodology in place. And so I'm not, whereas, like some things that you, like say you take a course, or say that I take a course and I get some benefit out of it. I'm motivated, right? I'm motivated to do something. As soon as the course is over, a week or two goes by, a month or two goes by, I'm no longer motivated, and everything that I took in the course goes away. All the benefits goes away. That has not happened to me with the Financial Miracle Challenge. When I have the things click and the aha happens, it seems to cement inside of me. And then I just go from there.
One thing I want to say, I think Aggie's question is great, because she's like, what do you do before, before and the after, right?
Yeah.
And because that's the framework of a course. When you buy a course, you come in and you do the course, and then you're transformed, and then you go into your life and apply it. This is not a course. You're actually in your business. You're taking 2 hours inside your business, and therefore it's being applied on the spot. And that's why we're doing it, because once you see that you can just talk and make some money, you're not going to go, oh, thanks for the course. And we don't take notes. We don't do notes. There's no documenting. It's talking. And people are business owners in their business. And what they're saying, my miracle is if I add $80,000 in my business revenue during the 5 days. So one of the prerequisites is why I screen them before, during the complimentary, is, are you a business owner? And why are you in business? What difference would it make on the planet? And now if you had an injection of 10,000, 80,000 in your business, like we empower you, how does that change anything? And they go, well, the membership goes up and I can buy this and da, da, da. And I'm great. Now, please. And by the way, do you realize that it's 100% up to you to do it? I'm just going to apply heat. You're going to apply heat, Barbara.
Yeah.
Heat, yes, I'm going to apply heat. And it's going to be super uncomfortable. And then once you get used to heat and uncomfortable, you just keep doing it in your business. There's no finishing the course and that I had a good experience. No, you just carry on. It's an activation of a capacity that you should have had in the first place. My question is, who turned it off? Okay.
Yeah, and I had really a interesting experience over the Christmas holidays. So I was visiting my granddaughter in Kansas, and I decided that I would teach her how to sing Do Re Mi. And I watched her, no notes, no note taking, and I would sing her the song, and she would sing and get it wrong. And then I would cheer her on or whatever, and then she'd sing it again, she'd get it wrong again, and then she'd get it wrong again, and then this part was right and that was wrong, and then this was right and that was right, and then this was wrong, and then this, and then all of a sudden, after about 9 or 10 times of her singing the song, she got it right. Well, interestingly enough, 3 weeks passed, and I called her one day and I said, "Can you sing me the song?" Guess what? She can sing the entire song correctly, even now, because it's now locked into her long-term memory. So this methodology of not taking notes, but instead speaking into the methods and the madness, so to speak, it locks in to the long-term memory. And so it's so different of an approach. But Aggie, your question was so great. I have to say, I love that question, because it's like, is it like anything else? No, it's not. Not from my experience. And I'm 63 and I've done a lot of courses. And this one seems to have a sticking power that others have not had for me.
So I have a follow-up question then. So I talked to one of the other people who was in the class. And so I know what that person is doing differently today than last week on Wednesday. But I'm curious, how are you applying one thing that you're learning in your business that changed? So I get that it would be different because everybody has a different business. So you do different things in your business. But what's an example of something that is different this week than it was last week?
Oh, can I just, before anyone answer, and I do have a 7:30 that I got exit on. There's only one thing that I'm teaching that they've got to do differently, and that is make money from talking. So if they were making money, what's different? They have to make a lot in 5 days. And that requires talking with intensity and precision language. That's the difference. And so if you pay attention, you'll notice everyone is particular about their words. That is the only thing I'm telling them they got to do differently. There's not a whole bunch of stuff you have to learn. Is you got to be talking. That's it. You're going to be talking. And as you're talking now, we're monitoring which words shut down your cash flow and which words allow it. And we kill the like it's vicious, like no, beep, shut down. No one can talk with that word. There's specific words that are cash flow inhibiting. And that's what you'll see the difference. So it's not like they have to learn a curriculum. No, you'll be talking. You've been talking to your wife. You've been talking to your business, your prospect, and all we're changing is the way you talk. That's it. At least that's the instruction I've given.
And the pressure, there's an automatic pressure. So if the goal is to achieve a specific financial goal by a certain time, which in this case is 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Friday. So as the days go by, your time gets shorter and shorter, and it constricts you. So are you willing to do 5 calls on Monday, 5 calls on Monday or Tuesday? And then all of a sudden, as it's like, oh no, I've got only 12 hours left. That means I got to do 20 calls in 1 hour. There's just this, like, what am I willing to do? What am I willing to do that I would not have done the day before, the week before, because I've got this goal that I'm achieving in this specified window of time.
Now,
And then
that
I get to peel back the onion and go like, well, I don't really want to
Well,
make 20
the reason
calls,
I
but
want to
I'm gonna
disrupt-
make 20
I'm
calls.
disrupting Bettina because that's how Bettina's brain processes.
That's
People
true.
she's on a whole different plane, but if there are people who are coming from another background and they stress out, like they don't do what she's doing, but because she's done a lot of work, her mind is freer to go to the next level of income. But there are people like when the pressure hits them, they lock up.
But
No talking.
you teach us how to work through the pressure. You teach us.
Well, I don't really teach. I demand.
He reminds. He reminds.
Right.
I
When you're
demand.
uncomfortable, he's like, good. You're getting to
Right.
the other, you know.
So I'm gonna go, but I just want to leave some because people are they're listening through a normal lens. I'm going to tell you, nothing I'm doing is normal. Nothing. It's
Right.
like just flip everything that's normal upside down, and because of that, people get upset, and they come in thinking normal. So here's number one: no one is allowed to have their mic off. Period. You write that. You see that. You come on a Zoom call, and the standard is mic off. And listen, no one's allowed to listen for longer than a few minutes without being thrown out. You got to disrupt to say something. Otherwise, we consider that rude. You notice that is totally reverse. Disruption is mandatory. What kind of stupidness is that? Disrupt. How are we going to talk at the same time? Yeah, mandatory disruption. Disruption. I didn't say interruption. Disruption. What else? All emotions are gifts. Anger, frustration, overwhelm is mandatory. Nigel, now you're going off in madness land. You see what I'm saying? And yes, that's right. We're going to do some crazy stuff. And there you are. Troy, Barbara, and Bettina are here smiling. And I can tell you the real analogy, the best analogy I can give is a volcano. Here it is. And so my work is called activation. And to teach it, I say, imagine a volcano. Most mountains are just sitting there quietly. And then if you stir it up or agitate it, you'll hear this rumble. And then in the core, there's this hot lava trying to get out. And at some point it blasts out. And as soon as it blasts out, it blackens the sky. And all this ash is floating around and everything goes dark. It's the most unpleasant thing on earth. And then this hot lava starts pouring out and running down the mountain and burning up your house and your car. Nigel, is that what you're selling? Yes, that's called an activation, a volcanic activation. Then the lava runs down and burns up everything, and then the mountain calms down. And it goes, okay. And then the lava is still floating around, burning up everything. And then the lava calms down. And then it solidifies. And then the ash calms down. And everything is stable again. The mountain just goes quiet. And then we go, what happened? And then we look around. And the first thing you'll notice is the landscape has changed. Wait, the whole terrain is different. We now have a flat mountain with a peak on it, and then we have these little mini mountains, which was the lava, and the island is widened because the lava sort of expanded the territory, and then green stuff started growing. Like, this place is getting nice. And you know what we call that new landscape after a volcano has finished its job? Paradise. Hawaii, Jamaica, all these islands were formerly active volcanoes, and now we call them paradise. So that's the experience of an activation FMC, is this volcanic thing that happens. It's both unpleasant, it's vomiting and sweating and crying, and then afterwards you see Bettina's face glowing. That's why I'm willing to put people through hell, because at the end of it, I see that glow that Bettina has, that light coming out of her. And I'm like, yeah, they didn't like me, but they love me now. So that's really what it is. So I'm not going to mince words. A volcano going off is not pretty, but when it's over, you want to go to Hawaii. Trust me, and you want to stay there. You will want to be around Bettina. Look at Troy. He's just a different being. And so I love that Aggie's paying attention to people, because what I want to say is take a picture before, take a picture during, and you see they're crying their eyes out. Nigel's horrible. I hate him. And then afterwards, let's hear the testimonials. That's what I'm saying. So I recognize that a lot of people talk about the experience in the program. I'm like, I'm not interested in that. What I want to know is look at your cash flow after the program. Look at the smile. Look, I've never heard Bettina, every time she does one, she comes out like she's been drinking Kool-Aid. What's up with this? So because the after effect, so after you've done it a while, you realize the after effect is much worth the discomfort. So that's what Barbara is talking about. There's a discomfort that you must go through, and we call it hell. You're gonna go through hell, but when you graduate, you'll be a Navy SEAL. Okay, that's how it works. Okay, with that, thanks, Bettina. Again.
Thank you so very much, Master Nigel Henry. It's great to have you back as always. We'll see you next week.
Yes, thank you. See you tomorrow.
Yeah, see you tomorrow. That's right. All right, everyone. We are just about time to wrap up here for the We Empower You community. Thank you, everybody, for joining us here tonight. If you'd like to join this meeting and you're watching on YouTube right now or on Facebook, go to weempoweryourlife.com, click on the calendar tab, and join us every Wednesday, 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. It's been great to have everybody here. We'll see you next week. Bye for now.
Bye-bye.